Yo, YouTube, they reacting to Aviloop, YouTube's darkest mystery. Now, Nick Crowley been posting like 5 months, gang. And I like Nick Crowley a lot. Like, I feel like Nick Crowley is like one of my favorite channels to react to, or channels, period. Just because it's so good. Like, I love Nick Crowley, but he ain't posted 5 months. I just get to it though.
August 5th, 2011. The channel appears on YouTube serving as a promotional page for an up-and-coming company called Aviloop, a brand that boasted unbeatable
Oh, it's Aviloop.
aviation.
That was Aviloop.
That same day, 4 videos were uploaded, each showcasing young women dressed as flight attendants, detailing some of the many services that Aviloop provided. These would be the only videos ever uploaded to the channel, as from that moment on, the page was abandoned, giving Aviloop a lifespan of just 1 day. The one day is all it would take to set in motion a mystery that remains unsolved to this very day. Mystery surrounding the company at the core of this channel and the services that it allegedly provided, with no one being able to answer the seemingly simple question, what was Aviloop? And the more you search for answers, the more deranged this trail becomes. This is the story of Aviloop, YouTube's darkest mystery.
Whoa, I would have been bad because there's no desktop audio. Alright, we good.
And there's no catch.
That would have been bad if I didn't notice that. I'm glad I checked because it was no desktop audio, so I can't hear it. Y'all can hear it now.
So what are you waiting for, Captain?
Welcome to Aviloop, your collective buying website for anything aviation.
The formula for Aviloop's content was simple. A young woman stands in front of a static white background dressed in a flight attendant's outfit. They refer to themselves as deal attendants, and their job seems to be sharing information about this new brand, Aviloop.
We offer deals on flight lessons, pilot accessories, fuel, FBO services, charter flights.
It's like some kinky what in the freaky?
And even small aircraft. You don't see that very often.
The brand marketed a number of unique aviation-related services, making them appear as a one-stop shop for anyone in the industry or just anyone interested in flying. Aviloop claimed to do it all, and at unbeatable prices too.
Our deals are usually 50 to 90% off.
Promoting deals of 50 to 90% off. It hardly seems like anything mysterious, just your standard subpar ad from the early 2010s. But the more you watch, the less clear it becomes what exactly Aviloop did. They left their business incredibly vague. There were no prices, no locations, and rather they just listed a bunch of flying buzzwords, offered at deals that seemed impossible. For example, they list fuel supply among their offerings, but how are they actually getting the fuel and providing it at 50 to 90% off? And where in the country or even the world are they offering it? It just doesn't seem realistic. What they're saying sounds fine on the surface, but the more you think about it, the less sense it really makes. It just seems too good to be true, not to mention how bizarre it is that this unknown company could come in and offer literally anything you could want that's flying related, with such exorbitant deals. Admittedly though, this is easy enough to ignore, and play off as an ineffective or even deceitful advertisement. But there was something else that was much harder to ignore about these commercials. With that being, the deal attendants themselves. Despite Aviloop claiming to be a professional aviation business, it's difficult not to notice how cheap these women's outfits appear. They're clearly costumes rather than real.
Bro, these some freaky ass outfits. Like they got bow ties, fucking around their neck. It's some
Real flight attendant uniforms, and they're clearly over-sexualized too. They're essentially dressed as fetishized versions of actual flight attendants, which is bizarre as one of the services that Aviloop claims to provide is staffing for flight crews, which would include actual flight attendants. Yet, for whatever reason, they chose to dress these girls in seductive costumes. If they were trying to make these advertisements look professional, they were failing miserably. And it wasn't only the outfits that had a strange sexual undertone to them. It was also the script that the girls were reading.
Whether you want to learn to fly, charter an airplane, or just see more girls like me, or to see more girls like me, Aviloop can help. Aviloop can help. So what are you waiting for, Captain? And remember Top Gun? Clearly your attractiveness increases with every flight under your belt.
Bizarrely, the videos themselves were filled with sexual innuendos.
Anyone who claims that humans were not meant to fly never experienced the thrill of their own successful landing. Get ready to fly big boy airplanes.
They were clearly trying to be more than a little flirty, which goes hand in hand with the outfits that they were donning. Now, some might argue that this was a sign of the times. In 2011, edgy and over-sexualized marketing was still very much in the norm, with several major companies building their entire brands around the approach. But the only problem here is that the videos made it unclear what Aviloop was even supposed to be offering. Despite saying a lot, the lack of details made it entirely ineffective, like the business itself was an afterthought, with the focus instead being on these women. In fact, even in the channel's description, they simply wrote, "Meet Aviloop deal attendants." This is the official page for a brand new company trying to promote its services, and that's all they had to say. That's how they marketed their entire company. Making some wonder what was actually the role of these deal attendants, and what was actually the purpose of Aviloop. The first and most likely theory at this point is that Aviloop was an overambitious company that used over-sexualized marketing to build intrigue around its brand, at a time when others were doing the same thing to great success. Maybe they weren't even off the ground yet and overpromising on services that they hoped to one day be able to provide. But for the time being, we're just throwing out there to get more people to visit their website. But with such a focus on these deal attendants, and just how strange these videos come across, some were left with a different theory. That rather than Aviloop use—
No, like, I don't think, like, it gotta be more to it. Like, I don't think it's just like them seducing people or doing this, being overly sexualized to get people to get on their website. It gotta be something more.
using sex to sell their service. Maybe sex was their service. The theory goes that Aviloop was a front for pornography or even prostitution, poorly hidden under the guise of this fake aeronautics company. This would explain the prominence of these deal attendants, as they themselves may have been the actresses or prostitutes. And it also explains the lack of information about the company itself, as the reason their deals and services don't seem to make any sense was because they weren't actually offering them. It was all just a cover-up. And honestly, just going off the eye test, this is how the page comes across. But there are other details that make this theory a lot more compelling. For starters, in numerous videos they mention an unusual feature of their website, that users can vote for their favorite deal attendant and win prizes as a result.
You can even vote for your favorite deal attendant and win special prizes.
With one of these special prizes later being revealed to be a one-on-one video call with one of these deal attendants. This shows that the deal attendants weren't just for marketing, they were a core part of the services offered to Aviloop users, making one wonder what was actually happening on those video calls, and was it perhaps something sexual? And it goes even deeper than that, as there's a reason why I mentioned prostitution specifically in this theory, with that reason being a line mentioned in one of these videos.
To purchase this deal, you must hold at least a private pilot license and a current medical certificate. Don't miss out and click on that big blue button. You know you want to.
The deal attendant
Like, yeah. This is like I'm on like I'm watching like a bro, this is overly freaky. Like, this is like, bro, just look at the way she's talking. Look, just sit there and hear it. Look.
Just this deal, you must hold at least a private pilot license and a current medical certificate. Don't miss out and click on that big blue button. You know you want to.
The deal
You know you want to.
attendant mentions that all customers needed to provide an up-to-date medical certificate. Now, this isn't something that's necessarily unheard of in the aviation world, but it certainly isn't the norm, at least from what I could tell. But in the context of this theory, it makes perfect sense. If they truly were operating some sort of prostitution ring, then their customers having an up-to-date medical certificate would be imperative to preventing the spread of STDs.
What?
It's strange enough to make this theory feel legitimately possible, but even if it wasn't true, it seems obvious that there was something off with this channel. And we haven't even discussed the strangest part of it all. In a few videos, you can hear unusual sounds in the background.
And you want to add multi-engine to your pretty green license, this is your opportunity to...
No way. No fucking way. Bro, did I just hear somebody moaning? Dog? Bro, what is going on?
And you want to add multi-engine to your pretty green license, this is your opportunity to do it at 50% off. Add multi-engine to your pretty green license, this is your opportunity to your pretty green license. This is...
In the background, you can hear what appears to be someone moaning in a blatantly sexual manner,
which was loud enough for even the deal attendant to take notice. It's very unusual, and certainly not a sound that could just accidentally happen on a typical film set.
Which makes it all the stranger that another inexplicable noise was heard in the background of a different video, and this one left viewers far more distressed.
No way.
You want to learn to fly, charter an airplane, or to see more girls like me? Aviloop can help. Or to see more girls like me? Aviloop can help.
Wait.
Or to see more girls like me? Aviloop can help.
Oh yeah, they got
Some believe that this is yet another sexual moan, while others swear they can hear a specific word. The word, help.
There's... Please don't tell me... Whoa.
It's incredibly concerning, especially if this prostitution theory is true. I mean, there's just so many implications to it.
Given the link between prostitution and human trafficking.
But again, this could all be part of the marketing. Maybe this was all just a ploy to get people to visit their website, roping you in with these sexualized, creepy, and even concerning videos that almost demand that you dig deeper. Well, if this is the case, then surely visiting their website would help put this mystery to bed. At the time these videos were uploaded back in 2011, those visiting the Aviloop website would be met with a rather lackluster experience. The homepage was dull and uninviting, and seemed about as vague as the videos promoting it. However, they did have an About section that attempted to describe the service more in depth. There, they mentioned that the primary goal of Aviloop was safety, as they believed that making training and other aeronautic services more accessible could in turn help prevent accidents, which strangely was never even hinted at in their videos, and is never mentioned again on any other portion of the website. But aeronautic services more accessible could in turn
It look like they don't sound like safety to me.
help prevent accidents, which strangely was never even hinted at in their videos, and is never mentioned again on any other portion of the website. But it was in this About tab that they listed even more services that they claimed to provide. Services like navigation equipment, headsets, and pilot vacations, among many other things. Basically anything even remotely related to flying, they sold it, or at least claimed to. And they insisted that they did so cheaper than anywhere else, by using collective bargaining, a process that they would go into greater detail about. Basically, Aviloop acts as a third party, partnering with aviation businesses to promote unique deals on their site. Each of these deals has a quota that must be hit for it to actually go through, so if enough people buy the deal, the quota is reached and everyone gets a voucher to do or receive whatever they paid for. But if the deal doesn't reach its quota, then everyone is refunded and the deal is voided without any cost to the users or the business. Aviloop was the middleman, which could explain how they managed to offer such impressive deals and such diverse services. Though again, this is just what they were saying, begging the question, was anything actually being sold on Aviloop.com? Well, there actually was. The deals were sorted by general locations, and most consisted of flying lessons, museum trips, or even temporary tattoos. However, there was something unusual about these listings.
Temporary tattoos? What?
Bizarrely, almost every deal on the site was marked as completed, each having ended in 1969, which obviously wasn't possible. There were only a select few deals throughout the entire website's history that were ever even active, and even then, there didn't seem to be a way to actually purchase them. This end date of 1969 was either some sort of glitch, or it was intentionally set that way, as the year just so happens to be yet another sexual innuendo. So what should prove the company's legitimacy actually only makes this company seem more suspicious. It was like they were trying to make it appear as if they...
So they had fake flight safety, whatever this shit is, on a website, but you couldn't actually buy it. Nice. Come on, like,
were selling all these different things, yet in reality they were hardly offering anything, and what they were offering wasn't even available for purchase.
how you gonna have prices for things and you can't even click on it? It's just for show. Like,
this set me on a hunt trying to find any sort of testimonials or reviews from any Aviloop customers, but strangely, I couldn't find a single one. In fact, the only proof that I could find that anyone actually used the service was an Aviloop patch that I found floating around on eBay. And the only reason that this is at all significant is that these badges were included in most of the offers on the website. But this isn't substantial in any way, shape, or form, and it's clear that the seller wasn't actually a customer and was instead a patch collector that must have somehow obtained it, making me question if anyone actually ever bought something from this website, and if this whole marketplace was really just a ploy. Which takes us back to that lingering theory. Just like the Aviloop channel, the website featured these deal attendants, and just like the channel, they seemed to be the primary focus. Their involvement was plastered all over the website, with the whole business model appearing to hinge on their involvement, which the site was not afraid to outwardly admit. What is the first thing you look for on our deal pages? We understand. Go ahead, check out our deal attendants. They sure are stunning. Vote for your favorite deal attendant for a chance to win a one-on-one VIP video chat with one of the girls. You will find our models are not only beautiful, but also fun and interesting to talk to. Just have fun. Feel free to bask in the glory of your win, and be the envy of your friends. After all, not everyone gets to brag about video chatting with supermodels. The process of voting for the best deal attendant was something that they heavily pushed, going as far as to reward one voter each week with the aforementioned private video call. And when discussing these calls, they not so subtly hinted that they weren't just ordinary video chats, writing, "You will be talking to real successful fashion models with exciting backgrounds. Many are big aviation fans, so you will have a lot to talk about. You never know. Vote, win, chat. You never know."
The allusion to sex was way more prevalent on the site than even on the channel,
with this line seeming to hint that winning these video calls could entail some sort of sexual encounter with the deal attendant, which only seems to bolster this theory even more. But unlike the channel, here we're at least given a bit more context as to why these women or deal attendants are being used, and according to the site, it wasn't as sinister as it seems. Under the business section, which is used as an FAQ for companies wanting to promote their deals on Aviloop, they wrote, "What is the deal with deal attendants? As a business, you have the option to include a professional video of one of our stunning models on your deal page for a flat fee. She will deliver a 30 to 60 second message describing your promotion. Our deal attendants are real professional models who work for high-end clients. Why should I include a deal attendant? Although our promotions get a lot of exposure, adding a deal attendant has the potential of making it viral on social media sites. Promotions that include a video tend to be extra successful." There's a lot to unpack here. For starters, this explains how Aviloop makes their money. They're basically charging companies to run ads using these deal attendants, and the videos on their channel are examples of what these ads would look like. Though calling them professional is extremely generous, and I can't imagine any companies actually wanting to use this service. And given that
tell you what, it's not professional. Far from professional.
these are the only videos that they shared, I don't think many, if any, actually did. But in this explanation, Aviloop is all but admitting to using these deal attendants to rope people into visiting their website, over-sexualizing them to lure in perverted internet users, giving them false hope that they'd be able to interact with these women and maybe even sleep with them. And in exchange, these users keep coming back to the site under this false hope, which maybe could lead to them purchasing something. It's an insane business model, and one that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, they're claiming that this is a service for professionals and real aviation fans, for the primary reason of making our skies safer, yet they aren't actually offering anything but the prospect of talking to women. These women are the main and really only draw of the service, and even the deals that they did list seem to contradict the primary goal of this company. I mean, how would a trip—
Bro, I'm still on that moan in the background of the video. I want to know what that was about.
to the museum help with aviation safety? And how would a temporary tattoo help with that either? And on the topic of these tattoos, they're also extremely sexual in nature. They were meant to mimic pilot stripes and be put on your shirtless shoulders, with a package reading, "When a uniform just won't do," and the description adding all sorts of innuendos.
And this is a good time to point out just how strange the writing is across the entire website. As here they write, "What better way to thank a pilot than by saying, 'Captain, you deserve to have your epaulets tattooed. We wish someone had these on board of the Miracle on the Hudson flight.' Just imagine the look on the pilot's face if someone handed these to him. So why not keep a pair in your wallet and thank the Sully in your life for the next flight? Every safe landing deserves recognition, and this gift is sure to make their day." Everything is written like this. It's not only sexual, it's also nonsensical, and feels like it was written by AI at a time when AI wasn't even a thing.
Everything about Aviloop feels wrong. The lack of any tangible goods and services, the overly convoluted business structure, and the lack of any public customers just makes this company appear so fake. But that doesn't inherently mean that they were actually involved in pornography or prostitution. I mean, despite all these innuendos, there is no direct mention of the sale of sex anywhere on the website from what I could see. And unfortunately, much of the website is lost to time, as in 2016 the site would go down, replaced by another random URL, making it impossible to know what this platform was actually like for those who signed up for it. What were they actually being offered? What were they discussing amongst themselves? And what happened on these video calls? It's all unknown, as what I've shown is pretty much all I was able to salvage from the Wayback Machine. However, Aviloop didn't stay down forever. In 2019, Aviloop.com re-emerged, only this time it looked very different. Gone were the deals, the business model, and most importantly the deal attendants, and in its place was what looked to be a generic template website. They still claimed to offer some of their services, but they were now left even more vague, and there was no attempt to even make it look like you could purchase anything. Even the innuendos were gone. It was quite literally as bare bones as it gets, and comes across like a sham website, void of any notable information, with one exception. There was a single new addition to the site, as at the very bottom you could find a short bio, not of a deal attendant, but of a legitimate pilot named Nadia Marinko, the creator of Aviloop. This revelation is huge, as Nadia Marinko was a well-known and extremely successful pilot, which makes Aviloop all the more confusing, as you would think that her involvement in the company would help legitimize it, and make it seem more likely that Aviloop was a real company after all. But instead, it actually did the exact opposite, as her involvement plunges this mystery into a whole new depth, a depth far darker than we've yet to discuss. Born in Czechoslovakia in 1986,
What the? Yo.
Nadia dedicated her younger years to modeling, landing multiple high-profile roles in her country. And by the age of just 15, these roles led to her being moved to the United States to help continue this budding career. But by 20, her interest had shifted to a different kind of runway. She became obsessed with flying and had a natural talent for it too, quickly rising through the ranks and gaining certifications faster than most others could at that age. By 25, she was considered extremely accomplished for someone so young, and her resume would soon reach a wider audience when she began leveraging social media. She posted videos under the alias Gulfstream Girl, and eventually Global Girl, where she marketed her.
Sorry if I'm bugging you, but yo, some sick stuff. Yeah, you could send it. You can send it.
Herself as a supermodel turned pilot, which worked to the tune of millions of views. Nadia Marinko was a star in the aviation world and on social media too, and it was during the height of this success that she started Aviloop. It clearly wasn't meant to be some big secret either. She actively promoted it on numerous occasions, doing interviews on podcasts and even taking it to a trade show. If this was a front for something nefarious, she was doing a bad job of keeping it discreet, which seems to back up our first theory. And it would be very easy to settle on that theory and just call it a day, had being a model and a pilot been all that Nadia was known for. You see, there was something that she was hiding from her audience, a secret in the form of a bond with one man whom she was working closely with at the time that Aviloop was launched. A man by the name of Jeffrey Epstein.
Whoa, now. Jeffrey Epstein.
Of Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested on new sex trafficking charges.
Charges of soliciting and procuring minors for prostitution.
He was involved in trafficking young women and children over to...
You know what's crazy? I don't even really know much about like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Yeah, I don't really know much about that. I don't know.
Little St. James.
In case you're somehow unaware, Jeffrey Epstein is the most prolific pedophile and human trafficker maybe of all time. He carried out a large-scale human trafficking operation, bringing children to his private island that he and other elites exploited in horrific ways. It's one of the biggest news stories of my lifetime, and over the past years there's been so much talk surrounding the acquaintances of Epstein. Who is connected with him, and how close were they? But of all these people in Epstein's circle, few, if any, were closer to him than Nadia Marenko. It's a difficult subject to discuss, but Nadia is considered one of Epstein's victims. He found her through her modeling job when she was just a teenager.
And she didn't just come to the United States for work. Epstein himself brought her, after allegedly purchasing her from her father.
What followed was Nadia becoming his self-described sex slave. It's a horrible and unimaginable fate, but while Nadia appeared to have been
alright, bro, I'm gonna add your Discord at this vid.
A victim of Epstein, that wasn't all she was, as after becoming an adult, she also became Epstein's accomplice. When Epstein was first investigated by the FBI back in the 2000s, many of his victims came forward and claimed that Nadia was not only present for their abuse, but she was a willing participant, there to satisfy Epstein's criminal sexual desires by, on occasion, directly participating in sexual abuse and prostitution of the minor girls. Now, Epstein was eventually given a sweetheart deal for these crimes in 2008.
After the video, I'm gonna add you.
Which led to him serving just 13 months in prison. And as part of that deal, Nadia was given complete immunity, meaning she never faced any sort of repercussions for her use of children. But despite being a free woman by the time that Epstein was thrown in jail, she stood by his side, living in his New York City home, waiting for his release. And while he was behind bars, Nadia would visit him roughly 70 times. These two were deeply connected, even well after she was his slave, with Nadia even making a scrapbook for Epstein, which is just so terrifying that I had to at least mention it in this video.
Whoa.
At least mention it in this video.
Yo, dog.
It would be several years later in 2012, a time when Nadia had long since left Epstein's home and his control, that Nadia would rejoin his operation, this time with a brand new role. She became one of Epstein's pilots, taking victims and perpetrators alike to and from the island, on the plane they dubbed the Lolita Express.
What happened on the Lolita Express?
Everything that happened on the Lolita Express and his other planes was the same thing that happened in his bedrooms and the massage rooms. The abuse did not stop because we're in the air. Jeffrey couldn't take a 2-hour flight without having to ejaculate. Like, that's how sick this man was.
Nadia Marenko was directly trafficking children for Epstein, and she was doing this in 2012, mere months after she started Aviloop. Which brings us to our third and most upsetting theory, that Aviloop wasn't a cover for prostitution, but rather a front for child trafficking and pedophilia. Nadia's involvement alone and the timing of the company's launch, mixed with all the innuendos, the red flags, it all starts to make sense. And it's made even more disturbing when you look at the videos they posted on YouTube, as one thing I failed to mention so far is just how young these deal attendants look. There's obviously no way to conclusively determine their age from the footage, but some believe that they look to be teenagers, and maybe even underaged, which would make sense for this theory, as the deal attendants wouldn't be prostitutes, but rather child victims. It's a theory that has to be considered. I mean, as crazy as it seems, Aviloop was quite literally founded and run by a child trafficker who was actively trafficking children when the company started.
And Nadia wasn't the only sketchy character involved in the site behind the scenes.
Epstein himself was as well. The two frequently emailed each other, and in multiple instances, Aviloop was discussed, with Epstein frequently giving her advice. In one email, he wrote to her, "Website is cool, mix of porn, Groupon, and flying. The marketing campaign could be, buy with us, we give a flying fuck." His mentioning of porn here is just more confirmation that Aviloop wasn't just an aviation company, but this also shows that Epstein was helping with the company, and he wasn't just doing this through friendly advice. Throughout his emails, you can also find dozens of receipts from transactions with Aviloop, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars of payments sent directly to the company. Jeffrey Epstein was an investor in Aviloop, and a big one too, and he seemed to believe in the service so much that he even appeared to use it himself, as emails show him inquiring about booking flights through the company. Nadia at one point even offered to help Epstein through Aviloop, writing, "Is there anything I can do for you? I can find a deal through Aviloop on anything you want. Airplanes, helicopters, cheapest charters, discounted fuel, or a new model/assistant." She's literally offering Jeffrey Epstein a model through Aviloop, which more than hints at this theory being possible. I mean, she spells it out. And if they were in fact trafficking children through this service, this could give us a blueprint to how they were able to get their victims. Maybe they were finding models and having them fly out under the assumption that modeling is all they would be doing. Maybe these videos were even their tryouts for their roles, which they did without even realizing what was to come. I mean, these women were referred to as models on the Aviloop website. And remember, modeling is exactly how Epstein found Nadia. And it's also how he found so many other victims, as he was known to use the modeling industry as a means of recruiting young and underage women, offering them high-paying jobs and potentially career-making opportunities, in order to lure them in. So maybe this was all part of the operation, or maybe Nadia was simply taking a page from his book, and using the same style of entrapment that he used on her. It's so disturbing to even consider. And there's one more email that I believe is the most disturbing of all, that could allude to their alleged trafficking. An email with the subject line, "Old Hairy Coconuts. I ordered sweet young coconuts from Thailand for you and they just arrived. Very yummy. I was going to ship them to you in Paris, but I hear you are coming back, so I will send them to 71st with Sarah, just so you don't have to drink juices from old hairy things."
Bro, what in the freaky game?
Epstein was notorious for using code words in his messages, and it's not
just so you don't have to drink juices from old hairy things. Bro, that just sounds crazy.
hard to see what Nadia may have meant by sweet young coconuts. So was it a joke or was it a coded message? It's hard to say, but this email was sent on November 13th, 2011, just 2 months after the launch of Aviloop.
Welcome to Aviloop, your collective find website for anything aviation.
So what was Aviloop? Well, to this day, we still don't have a true answer, but everyone has their theories, and most of them are not good. Many legitimately believe that Aviloop was a front for child trafficking, and I can see why. The connections and the strange material on the website and the channel make this impossible to write off as just some crazy conspiracy theory. And if this theory were to be believed, it makes the Aviloop YouTube channel that much more disturbing, as these videos would be advertisements for a human trafficking service that potentially included the victims as the stars. It's also possible that this was a hub for prostitution, and while sex work doesn't always mean human trafficking, just given the players involved, that would definitely still be a concern. There's also still the possibility that Aviloop was secretly a porn website, like Epstein seemed to suggest in his email, with this content perhaps occurring on those one-on-one video calls.
And there was one email that I found that was sent from Epstein's assistant, Story Cowles, that makes this feel even more believable, as Epstein asks him what he was up to which Story responds, "Just playing online at Aviloop. Pouring rain. Love it, love it." The way these people communicate is just so weird and hard to decipher, but playing online at Aviloop certainly seems to suggest that this wasn't just a typical daily deals website. And if porn really was the draw, I think given the secrecy of it and the people connected, I would still be very concerned about where they were getting these actresses, and if they were even of age. Nadia's legal team has pushed back on these theories, claiming she was merely Epstein's victim and nothing more, and someone who allegedly worked at Aviloop claimed that the ad campaign was merely meant to be provocative, and that's all. But this just feels so hard to believe. And regardless of which, if any of these theories are true, it seems so obvious to me that Aviloop was never meant to just be a normal company. I even question if perhaps Nadia had created Aviloop as a fake website, which Epstein could then funnel money into in order to make it look like Nadia was earning legitimate income, something that she needed to prove in order to get her US visa, which her emails to Epstein show she was clearly struggling with. And she seemed to allude to this at least being part of her reasoning for creating Aviloop in the first place, and part of the reason why she was asking Epstein for money. And ultimately, the only way she ended up getting that visa was through a deal that she made with the FBI that involved her informing them on Epstein's crimes.
Bro, there's a lot of things this could be. Like, this could be, like, it's a lot, yeah. This is a lot of information.
Her work directly helped lead to his 2019 arrest, and his ultimate death inside his jail cell that same year.
And it was around the same time that Aviloop went back online with its fresh, scrubbed look, void of anything even close to being sexual. And since then, it's never been updated again. And there's hardly been any updates from Nadia herself either. She made a brief appearance in a 2019 YouTube video where she pulled a prank on a flying instructor, acting as an inexperienced student only to surprise the instructor with how skilled she was, with Nadia going as far as to dress as a child. But since then, her trail goes pretty much cold, and once the Epstein files started releasing around 2024, she disappeared from the public eye. Bizarrely, from that point on, the only trace of her seems to have come from images and videos from a monastery, which she seems to have joined. Nadia Marinko's work with the FBI and the immunity that she was given all those years ago makes it feel unlikely that she'll ever be prosecuted, or even investigated for whatever this whole operation was. The reality, though, is that we don't know the full truth about Aviloop, and it's involved in one of the most twisted and deep rabbit holes in human history. A rabbit hole filled with so many layers and cover-ups and corruption that I just hope that somewhere within all of it, we can—
Like I said, I don't know nothing about them, the Epstein's file shit. I try to, like, not even get to know nothing about it just because, like, that's a weird topic. So I'd rather just stay away from that.
Eventually find an answer to the question, what was Aviloop? But until then, it will remain one of the darkest mysteries not only on YouTube, but across the entire internet.
Hey guys, I actually have a super last minute update here. I'd completely finished this video, but there was something that was still bothering me. The question of who were these deal attendants. I initially tried looking for information that could give us an ID, but everything was just wild speculation. But I decided to give it one last look, and I'm glad that I did because I actually think I identified two of them. I found an article that reported one of them as being a woman named Shannon Cusack, which explained that Shannon was actually a friend and maybe even roommate of Nadia at the time that she was starting up Aviloop, and at the time of filming this ad, she was actually in her mid-20s. It seems like she might have just been helping Nadia out at the time with this. She even listed the job on her LinkedIn supposedly, though it's now since been removed. The other deal attendant that I might have found was Ashley, and it was actually thanks to a YouTube comment. And what's interesting about her was that she was a model, but she was also in her mid-20s around the time of filming this. And based on her blog, she continued to have a normal modeling career and seemingly normal life after her time working with Aviloop, before she sadly passed away from cancer. And from what I've seen, there isn't much to hint that she was ever a victim of anything Epstein related. This is huge because a lot of people were falsely claiming that this girl was Ashley Martinez, a missing girl whose family is still searching for her to this day, but this doesn't appear to be the case. The only deal attendant that I wasn't able to ID was Claire, who does happen to look the youngest. But knowing now that these other women were of age, I feel more inclined to believe that maybe the women shown on the channel weren't actually victims of the operation, or at the very least they weren't children. But obviously I can't say this for certain. And that's not to say that that wasn't happening behind the scenes, of course. This just adds another layer to this mystery.
Hey man, this is a crazy video. It's a lot. W video though. W Nick Crowley. We out, man.